anymore. I think that because Sarah is
they're coming in.
Perfect.
I see the participants come in, so.
It started now. I had to click it.
I'm just gonna fight over who's in control of all the tech at Neighborhood House here, so.
Don't make it me. I'm happy just watching. I don't need to be in control, thank you. It's way too much pressure.
Well, we're just gonna wait another 10 seconds or so as people are coming into the webinar here. So thanks everybody for coming. We're excited to get into this conversation, and we're so happy that everybody gave up a little bit of their Thursday evening to learn a little bit more about food insecurity in St. Paul and how Neighborhood House is a part of that work. So thank you all. And I think we'll jump right in then. My name is Mackenzie Romanesco, and I am the Individual and Plan Gift Officer here at Neighborhood House. I started just in August, actually, during the pandemic. And so I'm really excited to hear from Georgie tonight as well, so that I can learn along with everybody else who's on the webinar tonight. As I said, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions. We did incorporate some of them into the questions that I'm going to be asking tonight during the presentation. And at the end, as time allows, we'll continue to answer them. So thank you for that. This webinar is a part of March Food Drive, which is actually a Minnesota-wide effort that we do here. And things do tend to slow down at all of the food markets that we have here in Minnesota right after the holidays. People are so generous and they're in that giving mood. So they really brought up March Food Drive so we could replenish all of the shelves that we have in our 2 food markets here at Neighborhood House. But again, that happens all over Minnesota, so we're excited to be a part of it. There's tons of ways to be involved in safe ways this year that we'll continue to share throughout the whole webinar. But I do want to just drop in our website that we have as well. And I'll do that very quick. So look in the chat below. But without further ado, I'm excited to introduce Georgi Nguyen. They have been with the Food Mart support manager here at Neighborhood House for about 2 years now. They fell into working in food support right after they were in undergrad. They started running a summer food service program at the Children's Hospital in Minneapolis. This was a program to help students stay fed over the summer when the school shut down so they could still get access to nutritious food. And this really inspired her to focus on that when she got her master's in public health and devote her career to food support in her community. They were born and raised here in Minnesota, and when I asked her for a fun fact, she let me know that she got a pandemic puppy in May that she's absolutely in love with. So thank you so much for being here tonight, Georgie.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Mackenzie.
And without further ado, we'll just jump right in then. Can you talk a little bit about what food insecurity is, Georgie, and how Neighborhood House is trying to be a part of the solution to address this issue in our community?
Yeah, absolutely. So food insecurity is when there is a lack of reliable access to accessible and nutritious food. And Neighborhood House's efforts in addressing food insecurity is through our food support programs. So we have 4 main programs. The biggest program is the food markets. We have 2 food markets. They're both located in St. Paul. One is at the Wellstone Center in West St. Paul, and the other is at a smaller location in the Highland area called Francis Basket. Our next program is the fresh produce distribution, which during COVID, we actually rebranded to fresh produce pickups to really illustrate that we had made these really drastic changes to make sure that the program was safe, and we were doing a curbside pickup model. But essentially, it's a free farmers market style distribution where families can come get bulk fresh produce, and these distributions are year round and traditionally have taken place at 5 different sites. The third program is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is the federal food stamps program for those of you who are not familiar with SNAP. And it's really geared towards outreach. So our SNAP outreach specialist works with families to increase awareness around the program, assess eligibility, and then assist with applications and renew applications for SNAP benefits. And our last program is NAP. So the Nutrition Assistance Program for Seniors is a monthly commodity box program where seniors can get an extra box of assorted dry or non-perishable foods through our food bank partner, Second Harvest.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can you talk a little bit about what goes into running our 2 food markets? What's happening on that back end that you guys are always so busy. So I'm excited to hear about that.
Yeah, for sure. So there are a lot of moving parts that really go into running our 2 food markets, but I'm just going to highlight what are our 2 biggest components. So not a big surprise, the biggest component is our food. We order weekly for our Francis Basket Food Market and 3 times a week for our Wellstone Food Market. This difference is really due to the space capacity between the 2 sites and then the number of families that we serve through each site. We receive daily food rescue deliveries from our 2 London Barley's site partners between our 2 food market sites. And then really the food rescue program is just something that we're so proud to be a part of, and we participate in partnership with Second Harvest. Lens is able to donate a variety of food that is at the end of its shelf life to our markets so that we can immediately distribute to our families. We also receive daily donations from all sorts of great organizations, partners, and community members. The next biggest piece is staffing and volunteers. We really can't do the work that we do without awesome volunteers, and I would not be able to do what I do without my amazing team. But whether or not we have volunteers at a shift really sets the stage for how a morning or afternoon is going to flow for our sites. It takes a lot of hands to unload our deliveries and donations, sort those donations, then stock our deliveries, the donations, and shop and distribute groceries for our curbside pickup models. On top of that, staff are also doing phone intakes with each family. That's kind of our check-in process, collecting their information and recording it in our database Client Track.
Great. And something that I learned early on, since I've started this role, that I would love for you to touch on is the amount of food that we have to actually purchase. Because we actually have to purchase quite a bit of food, which is something that I didn't know before I started working at Neighborhood House.
Yeah, and that's, I think, really contrary to popular belief or a food shelf myth, is that we actually purchase most of the food and high demand items in our food markets. This totals somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 each month on food, hygiene, and household items from our food bank partners, again, Second Harvest, and then also the food group. So even though we receive generous donations all year long, these donations don't cover most of our popular and requested items. I like to call these our core items that includes milk, meat, eggs, cooking items, fresh produce. And then since COVID hit, a lot of household and hygiene items, we've seen a huge increase in requests for these items. Donations really do help us stretch our food spending dollars, but something to note is that the variance in our purchasing power that we have as a nonprofit food market in comparison to that of an individual buying food from their local grocery store is that we can actually purchase food at a much lower rate, giving donors a larger impact when providing monetary donations versus purchasing food at their grocery store and then bringing that in. For those of you visual learners out there, here's an example of what we can buy for $35 versus what you could get at your local grocery store. I believe that this comparison we pulled from a local Cup Foods store for all these prices. So what we can buy for $35 can actually feed a family of 4 for a week. So not only do monetary donations allow us to purchase more, but it also allows us to be more reactive to community needs. For example, in addition to a huge demand in household and hygiene products, we're also seeing an increase in need for diapers. We've been fortunate to receive an abundance of donations during the pandemic. However, we've seen a lot of families that are requesting size 5 and 6 diapers. I mean, the majority of the families that come in daily are asking for these sizes. And I was telling Mackenzie that I'm up to my eyeballs in size 1, 2, 3, and 4 diapers because most of our families are requesting size 5 and 6. But with the monetary donations that we have coming in, we've been able to allocate some of those funds to purchase more diapers to make sure we have them available and in stock.
Great. That's incredible. And Georgie, can you share a little bit about what types of foods that we have available and specifically around what culturally appropriate foods are and why it's important we do so at Neighborhood House in our food support program?
Yeah, Neighborhood House has been a place in the community where families of all backgrounds can come and get food for their families. When Neighborhood House was established, it primarily served Jewish immigrants. And over time, we've seen new waves of immigrants and refugees and now serve a large portion of Southeast Asian, East African, Russian, and Latino families between our two sites. So although the cultural communities have changed over time, it's always been a priority that our families are able to get food that they're familiar with and things, a lot of things that wouldn't normally come through our food markets. So our food markets are culturally accessible because we allocate a portion of our budget just to purchasing foods that our cultural communities request and would see at a local ethnic grocery store. Beyond meeting need and being accessible, providing cultural foods is critical in maintaining those relationships and trust between the community and really creating a dialogue around what families would like to see more or less of. This dialogue is super important to us to continue to incorporate participant feedback into our program planning. And I also just think that providing cultural foods and incorporating this feedback really shows our commitment to our families, no matter how small the gesture is. I remember my first few months in this job, we noticed a few families that were asking for dried dates. They're common in dishes for an upcoming holiday. This wasn't something that we were regularly purchasing, but we were able to direct some funds to purchase these dates when we were not able, we normally would not have that available. So I think it does, like a little does go a long way with these community relationships. And not just to mention that it's just nice to make someone smile every once in a while when we have an unexpected item.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. And how does the food support program fit in with the overall mission of Neighborhood House?
What I really love about working at Neighborhood House is that we're a multi-service agency. Since we primarily serve immigrants and refugees, I'm just really proud of our agency's ability to provide wraparound services for families. Not only can they come to us and get groceries, but they can also take adult education classes, enroll their children in our youth and early childhood education classes, or use the resources through our family center to meet their needs. One of the hardest parts about coming to a new country is the language barrier and how confusing it is to navigate the different programs and services at the state, county, or nonprofit level. But being able to eliminate some of those barriers by providing multiple services within one agency, I think is just so great.
Great. And I just want to take a quick pause here, though, before we go back to a few more questions. I'm super excited to announce that we actually have a $1,000 matching gift this evening from Lee and Michelle Bungie. So now when you donate within the hour online or until around 8 o'clock or so, the Bungies will actually match your gift up to $1,000. Lee is actually an awesome board member that we have here at Neighborhood House, and we're so lucky to have their family as our supporters. And your gift will help make everything that Georgie and I are talking about tonight possible. It really does take a village to just make all these programs go, volunteering, giving, doing an in-kind drive. So I hope you'll make that gift online within the hour and your gift will actually be doubled tonight. So I'm gonna drop a quick link in the chat here. I hope that you'll take advantage of that. But I do still have a couple more questions for you though, Georgie. And I know one that got submitted online a lot and one that has been impacting you a ton is the COVID pandemic, as well as the following economic crisis that's impacted our families that we've recently seen. So what are some changes that have happened in the community due to COVID? And how's the food support program at Neighborhood House adjusted to those changes as well?
Yeah, COVID has significantly impacted our community. We've seen about a 25% increase in number of participants and an increase in number of services. Families are now coming in more frequently to pick up groceries for their family, so that we've had to change our operations to meet the changing need and make sure those coming to the food market are safe when they do choose to come in. So this table that we're showing here is just to illustrate how many more folks are really coming in. I know that the words are really hard to see here, but at the top there in the blue, it says number of families who shopped 2 times or more each month. And so we'd seen an 8% increase, and then families who shopped 2 times or more in the month 3 times or more. So that's like within the year, three months of the year they had shopped 2 times or more. And then the same thing goes for this last line here, this last chart, or the last row in the chart there, is at least 6 times within the year. So we are seeing a dramatic increase. Our Wellstone and Francis Basket food markets have both been operating under a curbside pickup model for safety. Our Wellstone site has a pre-packed emergency bag model, while our Francis Basket site has a choice model. Since our Wellstone site has pre-packed, we have eliminated several eligibility and service restrictions to accommodate families' needs. We're no longer enforcing service area requirements, and we've increased shopping frequency to allow for weekly shopping at our food markets. And we've also started a delivery service for our homebound families and those who have transportation barriers. So that's really a cool new service that we've been able to provide during COVID.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned once before that those transportation barriers, the homebound families are mainly our NAPS people, our participants, so those who are older primarily.
Yeah, so that definitely is a huge portion of the families that we serve, but also just a lot of folks who have always had transportation barriers, are now experiencing transportation barriers, or don't feel comfortable leaving their home for various reasons. And so we're just really thankful that we're able to meet those needs.
Yeah, that's incredible. And one thing I always like to do when I can corner a program staff member is ask them to share a story with me about our participants. I'm jealous that you get to work one with some of these individuals and see them every day. So would you mind sharing a story about someone impacted by COVID that has stuck with you or have connected with recently? One of our families or participants. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, so one story that really stands out to me is Jerry, who is pictured here on our slide. So one of our regular participants, and Jerry was laid off from his cooking job in March of 2020 due to the pandemic, and it's been difficult for him to make ends meet. But the food market at Neighborhood House, along with government food benefits, are really critical to supplementing his income. But I'm always excited to see Jerry when he comes in. He's always so nice and just radiates positive energy. He was just here on Tuesday, and just hearing the team call out his name for his grocery pickup just makes me smile. What really makes Jerry stand out to me is his concern, not just for himself, but for his neighbors as well. He has seen the impact on others who can't always access the food market as easily as he can. So Jerry actually began setting a box of food by his apartment security door, almost like a mini food market, and using his food benefits and our resources at Neighborhood House, he's been able to make sure that he and his neighbors have the food they need. And I just love that they're creating a support system and connecting with each other through food. I think that's really the best part about working in food, is just getting to meet folks and making those connections. And it's just so great that Neighborhood House can be a part of that. And I'm just, really proud of our food markets, that we're able to be there for Jerry, just like he is for his neighbors.
Great. Oh, so cool. And sorry, we had a quick question in the chat about the chart that is comparing our total 2019 numbers to our total 2020 numbers. Is that correct? And we've seen a 25% increase in.
Yeah, so that chart does illustrate 2019 versus 2020. Thank you so much for asking that clarifying question, Stephanie.
Yeah. Great. And then my last question is, how can our attendees tonight or the community help provide fresh, healthy foods to their neighbors through Neighborhood House?
Yeah, with the increase in demand that we've been seeing, we could really, really use your support. I think there are tons of different ways for everyone to get involved. The first one is to host a drive with friends and families, neighbors, your local school or faith-based organization or community organization, or you could also host a fundraiser. Last year, we were able to use Facebook for the first time to host fundraisers, and that has made things really easy and just also a fun way to connect with your friends and family on social media. You could also make an individual contribution. An individual contribution could also could be something unconventional. It could be donating extra paper bags to the food market. We can go through upwards of 500 paper bags per week, and we're always in need of more paper bags. Bags that are handled and already doubled are our favorite. And the last way to really get involved is volunteer. We're always in need of volunteers in our food markets. During March Food Drive, we need volunteers more than ever. We receive a lot of donations that require sorting and stocking. Our volunteers also help us prep our emergency boxes and bags and distribute them to families through our curbside pickup model. In addition, we also do a drive at Kowalski's Markets off of Grand every year for March Food Drive. And this year's drive is going to be this weekend, and there are still some volunteer slots available. In addition to those opportunities, we do have a safe group option to volunteer at our fresh produce pickup events outdoors at the Metro State University parking ramp. We host these events every second Tuesday of the month, and our next distribution is next Tuesday, March 9th. The weather looks like it's going to be great, so we'd love to see you out there. These go through May, so I see that Mackenzie has added the links in the chat, so definitely check out that information there below.
Great. Thank you for that. Yeah, and on the paper bags, I've gotten my family in Madison to actually donate their paper bags to me. And then I have 2 full bags of bags in my back seat of my car for the next time I stop by Wellstone. So
I love it. I love it. I definitely am collecting bags from every source possible. I have a bag of plastic bags sitting right in front of me right now. So it's just
become a game for us all, right?
It could. So, I mean, getting involved can be really small. And so I really do encourage you in any way that you can to really get involved with March Food Drive this year.
Great. And I think we have time for a couple more questions. One that was submitted that's very applicable to me, I actually come from a high-risk household, is around the volunteer opportunities. What are the COVID procedures for keeping volunteers and participants safe in our food market?
Yeah, that's a really great
or
question.
other activities.
Yeah, currently our awesome maintenance team comes in and does a deep clean of our food market each day. And we have implemented increased sanitation practices to make sure all high touch surfaces are cleaned regularly. We've also reduced the number of volunteers at each site to make sure social distancing is permitted. All staff are also taking double mask precautions. Of course, this is not required, but it's something that, we choose to do to take that extra step for safety. We do also provide PPE on site for those who don't have it available. So we are taking it really seriously to make sure that our space is safe and clean for all of our volunteer staff and the families that are receiving the food through the food markets.
Great to hear. And what percent of food, again, this is one of the questions that was submitted online, so thank you for doing that. What percent of the food recipients live on the west side? And they did give a specific zip code, 55107.
Yeah, so based on recent data, about 30% of our families live in 55107. However, we've seen an increase in the number of families who come to us outside of St. Paul, for example, from Maplewood, Inver Grove Heights, and Roseville in comparison to pre-COVID. And there's, a lot of factors that are involved with that, but mostly I think because of the eliminated restrictions that we implemented because of COVID, but also really just illustrates the need in the area.
Great. And what's the one food item that you can never get enough of, or is cash preferred?
That is such a tough question. I can't really pick one item, but I think some really great shelf-stable options we love getting is peanut butter and oil. Some items that we are really focusing on encouraging donations of this year are household hygiene and baby items. Like I mentioned, those diapers, man, we go through them so quick. However, monetary gifts really allow us to redirect funds to needs as they come up, which helps us to be as reactive as possible for our communities.
Great. And then I think I'll take one more. How does the food support work to best serve the community?
Yeah, as a team, I think all of our work is really about putting our participants first. All the programming and any changes that we have ever made to programs are really influenced by feedback from our families that we serve. The fresh produce pickup events, for example, were created back in 2013 based on community needs. Many families expressed that they only got produce from Neighborhood House and that they couldn't afford it or to access it where they lived. And so that was truly the foundation of that program being created. And it's through this lens that we continue to adapt and improve programs.
Great. That's wonderful to hear that you're working with our participants so closely and hearing what they need and then responding to that. I love that. Great. Well, thank you so much, Georgie, for your time and for sharing all these details about your work. It's such a big, it's our largest program at Neighborhood House, and it's I think it's sometimes hard to get your arms around it. So I appreciate you breaking it down for us tonight and really sharing a lot of these details.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good, awesome. And I do want to remind everybody that we do have a matching gift from Lee and Michelle Bungie. You can still give online tonight until 8 o'clock, and your gift will be matched by the Bungies. And everything that Georgie shared tonight is made possible by gifts from people like you in our community and the surrounding community to really make it possible. So thank you for taking advantage of that and giving tonight. And Georgie talked about all those cool opportunities tonight to get involved in our food drive, which is going on now through April 11th. I'm gonna put it one more time in the chat. Our wonderful Sarah Yoakum just yelled, "Way to go, Georgie and Mackenzie" in the chat. She is our youth literacy superstar, I think is the only word I can use.
So true.
Yeah, so it's wonderful to see everybody here tonight. But again, March Food Drive is so much fun, and I hope you'll get involved whatever way is best for your family. So thank you, and thank you again so much for being here tonight to learn more about this from Georgie and I. We're so thankful you spent your Thursday evening with us to learn more about our food support program here at Neighborhood House. So any last thoughts there, Georgie?
Yeah, I just really want to thank everybody for taking their evening to spend it with us. I also really encourage you guys to sign up for some of the opportunities we have available. I would love to see you all, especially since I can't see your beautiful faces right now. So I'd love to see you at some of our volunteer opportunities or doing drives and things like that. And I also just want to thank you, Mackenzie, for being an awesome co-host.
Well, I'm happy to spend any Thursday night with you, Georgie, if you ever want to hang out and just.
You flatter. You flatter me, doll.
Great. Well, I really did learn a lot. And again, I hope you participate in March Food Drive this year and online. And thank you for being a part of Neighborhood House's community and supporting us along the way, especially during a global pandemic. So thank you all very much for being here and have a great evening. Take care.
Bye, everyone.